guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. So today I'm going to be telling you all about my worst books that I read, or my least favorite, I should say, books that I read in 2021, this past year. You can probably notice just right off the bat, there's a few things different about this video.
My voice is rough.
Also, there's a rough in the background, and the background is obviously different. So I'm really sick. I've been really sick, unfortunately, during Christmas. So my voice sounds really bad. I meant to film this video a while ago, but I was just feeling so bad.
It was so bad, I want to give you a 0, but that's not possible. So I give you a 1.
It was that energy. It was horrible. So that's why I'm just now getting around to filming this video. I'm also at my family's place for Christmas, so that is why there's a million dogs in the background. I'm sorry if there's a horrendous background noise. And yeah, this background is my mother's guest room, so this is where we're at. I hope my setup isn't crooked. I hope my voice doesn't bother you, whatever. I hope you're having a better holiday season than I am. I have my little lights necklace to be festive, but I'm really not feeling in the spirit.
Exhibit A.
So, to match the way that I'm physically feeling, I figured why not talk about some horrid books. Okay, no, before I really get into talking about these books that I didn't like, I just want to give a disclaimer that these are all my personal opinions. People really do not like when I talk negatively about books, but I feel like it's not what you're here for. Do you want me to just rave about books, or do you want me to warn you about the bad ones too? Like, it's my opinion, okay? You don't have to take it as the Bible. You can have a different opinion than me. In fact, there are some booktubers that I watch that I know I have opposite opinions of, so whatever stuff they don't like, I take it as a recommendation. So if you want to use me like that, great. But all of these negative opinions that I have are just that, my negative opinions. These books didn't work for me. That doesn't mean that they won't work for you. It just means that they're not my favorite books of all time. In fact, they're the bottom of the barrel for me personally. So please do not put some shit in my comments about,
oh, Haley, you're so harsh on this book, and it's really not that bad.
To me, it is. So I don't even want to hear it. That is my disclaimer. I don't enjoy being negative to an author about their piece of work that they feel is art, that they put their all into. Like, that doesn't make me feel good, but it is quite fun to drag things that are just a little ratchet, that just don't make 100% sense. Especially a few of these YA books on my list. Oh my god. I have 12 books to share with you. Quite a few of them are YA, and wow. I mean, wow. Also, some of these books on here are by my favorite authors, and they were just like huge fails. So just because I'm talking shit about a certain book does not mean I hate the author. It does not mean that I'm disrespecting them in any way. It is just my personal opinion. And honestly, it's really hard for me to rate something less than 3 stars. Like, that is a big decision for me. I think all of the ones on this list are ones that I rated 2 stars and lower. So for the whole year, only having 12 books that I rated 2 stars and lower, I feel like that's pretty good. It's really hard for me to rate low because I know how much work it takes to put into a book. I know how difficult it is to sit down and write something, y'all. I went through grad school. I wrote a lot of shit, and it's not easy. So it's hard for me to give any piece of work and piece of art a low rating, but that just goes to tell you how bad I think these books are, and how much they really upset me. Because if a book gets a 2-star or less from me, that means they really did something to upset me. So with that preface, let's go ahead and dive in to the 12 worst books that I read in 2021. Let me just go ahead and start out with the most recent read on this list, which is The Woods Are Always Watching by Stephanie Perkins. By the way, I don't have any of these books with me, obviously, because I'm at my mother's house and I was not about to drag a huge bag of 12 bad books over here with me. So they're all going to be added in post. But we have The Woods Are Always Watching by Stephanie Perkins. I did a whole 8-minute long rant about this book in my most recent vlog, which I will link if you missed it. I thought it was pretty funny. Some people thought I was being cruel, but you know what? I tell it like it is. And this book set out to be our feminist queen, and instead she did the opposite of what I personally believe feminist commentary should be doing, which is empowering women, especially young women. If I had a teenage daughter, I would not allow her to read this book. I would feel really horrible about myself if I gave this to a young female viewer and gave that as a recommendation. I think this book is really actively harmful, and none of the feminist commentary landed, and the twists were absolutely ridiculous, and the characters were insufferable. So I'm not even gonna give you a synopsis because I don't want you to read it. This is one that like actually actively made me angry and upset me, and I would not recommend. So if I would not recommend it, I'm not going to give you a synopsis. I don't want to entice you to read the book, to be honest, but there are some that I know are just a matter of my opinion, and it's not anything problematic or anything like that. So for those, I will give you a synopsis because your taste might be different than mine.
Whatever.
Let's get into another YA thriller, The Lake by Natasha Preston. This one was about a couple of teenage girls who went to this summer camp growing up, and they decide to go back as camp counselors. I think they're about 16 or 17 years old, and as they're there, creepy things start happening. They think that somebody knows what they did. The past summer they were there when they were little girls, and they start getting really paranoid that somebody knows what they did and they're gonna come after them and kill them. They think they're being hunted down, and honestly, I just felt like this book was a waste of time because the ending was so lackluster. It honestly felt like 300 pages of lead up that was really stretched out and really got kind of boring and monotonous. And then the end, where the book should have actually felt like it was really starting into the action, it just ended very abruptly. And there was really no twist. There was really no big reveal. It was just kind of
boom, cut off.
And it felt like I wasted my time. The few hours that I spent reading this book, I would have rather had back and invested into a book that was maybe a little bit longer and had more substance to it. Let's stay on the YA thriller train, why not, and talk about The Project by Courtney Summers. And I know for some people, this was a 5-star book, so it might be for you. This is just my opinion, but I gave this book a total of 1 star because it was just so boring. I don't know how you can take a book about cults and about following this perspective of the sister who is trying to get her other sister out of this cult and investigate the cult and expose the cult. I don't know how you can take that concept and make it so insufferably boring. Also, these characters were not likable, but not in an interesting way that made me want to know more about them. It was like in a way that made me want to never read from their perspective again, because it's not that they were unlikable in an interesting way. Like I said, they were unlikable in just an insufferable way where I did not want to keep flipping pages because our protagonist, who we were supposed to be right behind and rooting for, annoyed the hell out of me. And I don't think she really cared about her sister. Some of the ways that she talked about her sister, I didn't like. I thought it was boring. I didn't want to keep up with any of the action that was happening. I got very confused because I just did not care. And I think it's really difficult to write a book about sister relationships, about cults with such high stakes, with investigation and expose, and make it boring. Like, I don't know how Courtney Summers managed to do that, especially after Sadie. Sadie was a great book and got a ton of hype. This one just did not hit for me. But again, I know a lot of people who gave it 5 stars, so maybe try it out if any of my descriptions sounded good to you. Now let's jump into romance. And this is actually a book by one of my favorite authors, Colleen Hoover, but Confess just did not hit for me. It felt really cheesy, really over the top, and really, I don't know if I want to say this word, but like patronizing. It almost felt like a romance that was making fun of the romance genre, and I really love Colleen Hoover, so I don't want to drag her, but this book was not it for me. It follows this girl who is kind of down on her luck. She's looking for a job and a way to get away from this abusive guy, and she ends up running into this guy who runs an art gallery, and he gives her a job and she gets involved with the art and they end up falling in love, and he is trying to get her away from this toxic guy. Very typical Colleen Hoover type of plot, except this interesting added element was that this guy's art is all based around other people's confessions. And the confessions that were used in the book were Colleen Hoover's readers' actual confessions that they had sent into her. So I thought that that concept and that addition was really, really cool.
But that was the only thing that I liked about the book.
The actual romance was super cringy, super boring, super not believable. I just, for some reason, could not connect to this couple, and I feel like when people make fun of heterosexual romances, this is the kind of book that they're making fun of. So Colleen, I'm sorry, but this one just did not hit for me. And another romance that I had on this list is 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. This just read, first of all, way too long, but this read like a motivational poster to me. It felt like all the themes of like valuing your life and living unapologetically were just like pushed down my throat or like banged into my head with a hammer. There was no subtlety or tact at all in this story, and the romance was very, very, very lackluster and very, very, very immature. In my opinion, this story follows a childhood friends to lovers story between these two teenagers, Poppy and Rune. And Rune has to move away from Poppy when he is younger, but he ends up moving back when he is a teenager, and they end up rekindling this romance. But things are a little bit weird around them because they both have secrets and things that they're kind of keeping from each other that transpired over the years when they were apart. And one of those things is really, really horrifying and life-altering for one of the people in the couple, which obviously no spoilers, I won't give that away. But the way that this plot device is used, it's like it's using this tragedy as a way to say,
you know, you should really value your life because this really shitty thing could be happening to you. And look at this character and look at how they're just embracing their life, and shouldn't you do that?
Like, it just felt very overly positive in a disingenuous way, and also in a very condescending way. Like, if you're not handling things like this character, you're handling it wrong kind of way. And it just left a very bad taste in my mouth. I didn't like the romance. There was really nothing redeeming about this story to me, and I hated it. Next up, I'm going to talk about The Wrong Family by Taryn Fisher. This is an adult thriller, and I accidentally spoiled it in my wrap-up, so I apologize if you saw that, but also, you don't need to read this book. I'm not even going to give you a description because it is so upsetting. The mental health representation in this book is so disgusting, and we are just so far past this that in 2021, there's no excuse for using mental health or a psychological diagnosis as a plot device or a twist in a thriller, especially when you're using it to explain someone else's violence. And it's just disgusting to me. So I'm not even going to waste my breath, my feeble little vocal cords. I'm not going to waste my time even telling you about this book other than it is trash. And I know people get very mad at me when I say that a book is trash. Y'all literally cannot argue with this one. The Wrong Family belongs in the trash can. And if you refute me on that, I will point you towards the mental health representation and remind you that I'm a therapist and I cannot, in good conscience, say anything about this book other than it is absolute hot garbage. Okay? A very, very, very similar situation to this is The Other Misses by Mary Kubica. This started out as just a very typical adult domestic thriller about a family, you know, suburban drama, the whole thing. I usually love that shit. I will eat it up. But then I had this inkling that this mental health diagnosis was going to be used as a plot device. And y'all, I'm sick of it. There are so many other more original, creative concepts and better twists that could be used other than,
oh my God, the whole reason for this craziness and the thrills was that this person is mentally ill.
like, I'm sick of it. It's 2021. Come on. For real? And this is Mary Kubica. I love her work. I absolutely loved her new release from this year, Local Woman Missing. But there's no excuse for the other misses. None at all. Disgusting. And the fact that it's being adapted, Netflix, you need to look at yourself and look at your choices. That's all I'll say. Let's jump back into romance real quick because I'm pretty sure this is the most abhorrent book that I read this year. And it's because it felt like there was little to no effort involved. And that is The Perfect Letter by Chris Harrison. And we all already know, if you follow the Bachelor franchise and Bachelor Nation drama, we already know how much of a horrible, abhorrent person Chris Harrison is. And this book that he wrote was just a money grab. There was no effort put in whatsoever, and it was horrible. I can't believe I put myself through that for this, but I think the vlog that I made reading it was actually pretty funny, so I will link it if you're interested in watching me go through that pain.
So I can please get something, just a penny from one book of the month ad out of this book. And because this reading experience was so bad,
This book was horrible, and it was so obviously a cash grab. Like, the way that they recommended it and were like hyping it up on The Bachelorette before this book released, it was just like, oh, please give me a break. But I'm like,
I was curious. I can't lie. That marketing, I was like, give me the smut.
because on The Bachelorette they were like,
Oh, it's so steamy, blah, 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 blah.
I read it and I'm like, no, Chris, you need to pick up Tessa Bailey because that is some steam. This shit, I don't know what he thought he was doing. I don't know if y'all saw my reading 1-star reviews of my favorite books video, but we were talking about Vanilla Katie. In that video, we need to add Vanilla Chris to the Vanilla Club because this smut was lacking. If the only reason I'm going to read a romance is for the smut and there's not even good smut, yeah, that book belongs in the trash. I'm sorry. Let's jump back into Miss Natasha Preston. She is such a hit or miss author for me, but for this year, I read a lot of misses from her, and one of the worst offenders was The Twin. This book really got me in the beginning. I was really invested. It's about these two twins who were separated at birth when their parents divorced. So one twin went to go live with the dad, the other one went to go live with the mom. The mom ends up passing away, so now the twins got to live together again, and the one that was living with the dad is kind of sus of her other twin. She's like,
Okay, listen, we haven't been living together for a long time. You don't really know how things work around here living with dad, but I feel like you're trying to steal my life right now.
and y'all know I love a bitch try to steal my life story, so I was all in, even despite the fact that it was YA. I was like, okay, this twin's trying to steal your life. She's trying to take you over. What you gonna do about it, girl? You have to somehow prove this, and everybody's thinking she's crazy. And there was a point in the book where I'm like, I don't know, maybe she is crazy. Maybe this girl's just grieving and she's taking it out on her sister, and that's gonna be the twist. When I tell you, the ending made me feel like I read the whole book for no reason. I was so mad. This book got 2 stars from me purely because the ending ruined the whole thing. I was so invested. It was so thrilling for like 90% of the book. The last 10% negated everything, ruined it all, and it did not work for me one bit. Now, maybe that's just my thing and you'll pick it up and you'll love it. If you're a YA thriller lover and that concept sounds good, maybe pick it up. But for me, unforgivable. This next book is by one of my favorite authors, so this is a heartbreaker, but I'm talking about The Minders by John Mars. My boy, John Mars with The One and The Good Samaritan. Those are 2 of my favorite thrillers. Come on, bro. How did you come out with this? First of all, The Minders spoils The One and The Passengers, and it's not marketed as a sequel at all, so it's just like,
hey, surprise, if you wanted to read this book, sorry, too bad you can't.
the concept is completely convoluted and so weird, so hard to understand. I didn't give one singular fuck about any of these characters, and honestly, the only redeeming factor of reading this book for me was the discussion that we had for the Book Troop book club, because Gabby and Katie, first of all, their energy together was just chef's kiss amazing, and it was just so fun to drag it and discuss it because it was like a unanimous decision. Everybody realized this was a 1-star book as we were reading it. So yeah, I don't think I'm alone in this. I don't think I'm gonna get dragged for not liking this book because it was a hot mess. So sorry, my mother has a landline. I don't know why, but just pause. But yeah, these sci-fi elements in the Minders did not come through how I wanted them to, like they did in the one in the Passengers. In this book, it was just really confusing and convoluted, and I don't even know if John Mars himself fully understood the mechanics of what he was trying to explain. And the thrills were not there whatsoever. The stakes did not feel high at all, and we didn't care about the characters. I felt like if the characters were more fleshed out and I cared about them as much as I cared about the characters in the one, then maybe it would have been a little bit more high stakes. I could have done a little bit more work to make myself invested, but all of those characters just felt really flat for me. Moving on to another UK adult thriller, we have Believe Me by J.P. Delaney. And I read this one for my J.P. Delaney taste test vlog, and at first, things were going really well. It was about this girl who works for this agency, this private investigator kind of vibes agency, where she will go on these fake dates with men with a hidden camera and basically try to get evidence of men cheating on their wives. So their wives have some kind of evidence in like in a divorce trial, custody agreement thing, blah, 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 blah. That kind of situation. And that's how she is making her money to work through acting school. So she's kind of getting this experience acting with these guys, and it's a really funny dynamic. The audiobook was beautifully produced, so wonderfully well done. But about after the 30% mark, it just went off the rails. It got way too convoluted for me, and it stopped being a story about this girl and being a story about this big system that this girl was caught up in, and I did not care about the system. I cared about the girl, and I kept wanting to go back to our main character who I fell in love with in those first few chapters. And I just felt like we were losing her, and it was becoming more about, first of all, this man. Who likes that? Nobody. But second of all, this greater, like, conspiracy, bigger thing that I just didn't vibe with. I wasn't down with it at all. But maybe you would be, so I don't know, try it out, especially if you can get the audio for free. I would say maybe give it a try. I know some people do like this one, and I do think the audiobook is wonderful, but that story, I got so taken out of it around the 30% mark. And if you've read this one and you know what I mean, please tell me that you know what I mean down below, because I feel like I'm so alone in that. And the last book that I have to talk to you about, this is my worst book of 2021, and I'm sorry because I know a lot of people do like this one, but it is If I Disappear by, I don't even remember. But this is another one that, you know, I was gonna say that I was invested in until the end, and the end made me angry, and I felt like I negated my whole reading experience and that book was just a waste of time. But that's not necessarily true. So this book is a thriller that follows this girl who's obsessed with a true crime podcast, and she thinks that the star, the creator of the podcast, is missing because she hasn't posted in a while, and what had happened to the girls that she speaks about in her podcast has finally happened to her. She has gone missing. So our main character literally stalks this girl, goes to her hometown, stays with her family, and tries to find out what has happened to her. And that's just a very odd concept, first of all. The writing style was very, very weird, very unsettling, very hard to understand, because I do like weird writing, like Mona Awad, give it to me all day. I love that kind of writing style, but this was weird in a way that was just like,
I don't know if I'm supposed to be uncomfortable with this, but I am.
Like, I don't think it was supposed to be intentionally unsettling, but I was unsettled, is what I'm basically trying to say. And then we go through this whole story that was so monotonous, where I was like, come on, are we gonna have a lead? Are we gonna know what happened to this girl? Are we gonna get one just small smidge of a clue? No, nothing. All right, we're in the last 10 pages. What is about to happen? And I felt like the end was the stupidest shit I've ever read. No offense. But it felt like I had wasted my time reading it. And thank God that I did not buy the hardcover edition of this book and I just borrowed it for the library, because I would have been so mad if I spent my own money on this book. It was so bad. And I don't understand how people are liking it, but people are liking it. So I don't know. Maybe if your tastes are different from mine, try it out. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you end up liking it. I would be so interested in that. But also tell me down below if you agree. If you also hated some of these books that I categorize as my worst books of 2021. And that is going to be it for this video. Those are my top 12 worst, most disappointing, least favorite, whatever you want to call it, books of this year. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to like this video if you liked it and you don't mind me being a little bit sassy, because a lot of people dislike my sassy videos, which is okay, but also kind of rude. Yeah, and subscribe to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season, and I'll catch you in 2022. All right, see you in the next one. Bye.